syndication for the remaining.
It was only on for 4 years.
That surprises me.
It's still running in humans, you know, like a friend of mine, his grandpa insists on watching it. Like, he must have seen them all many times at this point.
Oh, yeah, for 4 years.
I thought it ran for like 10 or something.
Production company. Oh no, you're right. So,
okay.
Oh, it only ran in LA for 4 years. So 1951 to 1971. So
that makes a lot more sense.
There's 1,000.
I was gonna say, like, wouldn't you get tired of only 4 years of episodes over and over and over?
That's horrifying.
Well, to be honest, all the episodes sort of kind of blend together.
Yeah.
But he carved a name for himself as a famous North Dakotan.
That he did.
Where's he from? He was born in the German-speaking community of Strasbourg, North Dakota.
Strasbourg.
Jawohl.
Isn't that what they named
10?
No. It's in North Dakota. Bismarck, right? It's the capital. They changed the name Bismarck to Bismarck, or named this capital to Bismarck to attract more German immigrants. I think North Dakota has fewer people than my city.
Big Jim wants to know about you shaving your head, Scott.
Oh, wants to know why?
He says when, but I bet he also wants to know why.
Oh, well, I already did it. We all did it, and we did it like 2.5 weeks ago, and it's on YouTube, and we did it for Brian Ibbott's wife, who's going through chemotherapy.
Solidarity.
It is.
That was the best video ever. Did Carter put that together? Who put that together?
That's me. I just did it.
Oh, you slept at it.
Filmed a lot of it, but yeah.
That was good. I didn't mean to assume that you couldn't have.
No, it's a fair assumption. I pass off a lot of these creative projects.
I was just going to give props if that's, to whoever it was.
Yeah. I just threw it together real quick.
No, it's a heartwarming video. That brightened up my day.
Good.
Watching that.
Glad to hear that. It felt good to do it. It was a nice break that had nothing to do with
politics. Yep.
Purity to that. I liked that.
Well, folks, we're going to talk robots today. I don't even know where we're going to go with that conversation. It's going to be a surprise. The robots will tell us.
Well, you never know.
Got really good response to the IPv6 conversation with Ethan yesterday. He was great.
Oh, yeah? I didn't hear yesterday's. I want to go back and listen.
If you ever think of a networking topic that you want explained, let me know, because he said he'd love to come back on whenever we need him.
Help me figure out why one of my domains won't get a DTNS problem fixed. Whole separate problem.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like as wide of a conversation as we might want to have.
Probably not, no. More like a technical support call, really.
Just call Ethan. Hey, so Tom said you'd come back on DTNS to explain network time. I got a question. You're like, I don't know. Ask your ISP.
It'd be a fun.
I apologize if I coughed. I'm going to turn off my mic before I cough again.
I'm sorry you got the cough.
You guys, you didn't catch that at Disneyland, did you? Probably did.
What's that?
Disneyland will give you all kinds of coughs.
Oh, yeah. Maybe that's where they got it. Because they were dealing with the children things more than I was.
Ooh. That'll do it. The worst colds I ever had was after Disneyland. How'd it go, by the way? It was your first one.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah,
I had a good time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really liked the Hyperspace Mountain, which for me has always been called Hyperspace Mountain.
Really?
Because it was called that on Saturday for the first time I ever went.
Oh, all right. There you go then.
Everything was funny. We went to the Haunted Mansion, and Eileen and Roger were both sort of not picking on it, but they were like, "Oh, well, this is different, and it used to be this," and I was like, "It's all great for me. I didn't notice anything different."
Yeah, you don't have to have any kind of like, oh, I hate that they changed this or any of those things.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it for what it is.
No, it's still fun. It's still fun. I wish it was longer. That's my only gripe is that I guess as a kid they seem longer, and part of it they just want to get people through.
Right.
But like the Pirates of the
I wonder if it's actually shorter, or if you just felt like it was longer when you were a kid.
But things like not Pirates of the Caribbean, but Star Tours just tack on 3 more minutes or something to that whole experience just to make it feel a little more interesting.
Yeah, the new version of that definitely feels shorter than the old version of that.
Like it definitely feels like
hey,
it's missing.
We should probably start the show, huh?
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, give me control.
It's the Disney hour. Oh.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Disney hour, everyone. Today we discuss Disney.
Okay, here we go. Ready?
Yep.
Daily Tech News Show is brought to you by you, the audience. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, February 1st, 2017. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Scott Johnson. He's the Wednesday man.
Wednesday
man. Call you out there.
Wednesdays with Maury or Maury.
Wednesdays with Scott because you're Scott.
That's true. It's good to be back, man. We missed you last week for our usual Wednesday.
Hey, yeah. Thanks for filling in. It's good to be back myself down in the normal studio. All of the floodwaters have receded for the time being. Knock on wood. We're going to talk about robots today, because there's some interesting numbers about the skyrocketing sales of manufacturing robots. We're going to talk about what that means for products, how they get made, the infiltration of the Internet of Things into factory floors, what it might mean for jobs, all that sort of stuff. But we got lots of news to talk about before we get to that. Samsung sent out invites to a press conference for 7 p.m. local time, February 26th in Barcelona. An image shows the end of what could possibly be a tablet. They said they're not going to do a Galaxy S, so it's likely to be a tablet. Nintendo President Tatsumi Kimishima told Nikkei that the Nintendo Switch paid cloud service is going to cost you 2,000 to 3,000 yen. That would be somewhere just under $30 US. How's that sit with you, Scott?
Hold on, 30 a month rather?
Like between 17 and 26 roughly is what 2,000 to 3,000 yen is. So it'd be hard to say how they'll price it in US dollars. It might be 25, might be 30 a year.
If that's per year, that's not too bad. I mean, the competing services are all $40 to $60. So while you can get deals on those sometimes, generally speaking, those are more money. So it's smart for them to come lower than everybody else. But man, they have so much to prove. We've talked about it on the show before. They have so much to prove that they can handle themselves in this generation moving forward, because they've done so poorly in the past. So this is definitely a time will tell deal.
And then another real quick one, the information has sources that say Snapchat's working on filters that will actually fit themselves into the landscape. You know, the way the masks fit to your face? These would like stick to the hillside of your photos and videos and stay there like an augmented reality thing.
Well, that seems cool. Now,
here are some more top stories. Jury is in. Actually, jury will be out tomorrow. He won't be back till next week. But the actual jury in the Oculus ZeniMax case is in and has decided that Facebook's subsidiary must pay ZeniMax $500 million for the violation of a non-disclosure agreement by Oculus founder Palmer Luckey. If you don't remember, Luckey worked as a contractor for ZeniMax before he launched his Kickstarter to start Oculus. The jury found that Oculus was not guilty of misappropriating trade secrets, as ZeniMax had also sought. So they're not guilty of stealing things from ZeniMax, but Luckey is guilty of violating his NDA. ZeniMax wanted $4 billion. They started wanting $2 billion, and at the very end of the trial, upped it to $4 billion. Instead, they're going to get $500 million, and it breaks down like this. Oculus will owe $200 million for the breaking of the NDA, $50 million for copyright infringement. Both Oculus and Luckey must each pay $50 million for false designation. And Oculus co-founder Brendan Uribe must pay $150 million for the same charge.
Wow. Well, I guess silver lining here, if you want to call it that, is I don't know, it ends kind of like a very long fight. And there was a lot of back and forth about who was in charge and who was in trouble and who wasn't. John Carmack apparently not implicated in this. He did testify during the trial. And outside of any appeals or anything that may happen, it seems like it's probably fair. Here's how I look at it, Tom. Maybe just $1 from all 500 million people that bought an Oculus. Oh, wait, not that many people did. And the reason I say that and make a bit of a joke is Facebook's got way more money than they know what to do with. Oculus, as a separate entity, even though it's a subsidiary and owned by Facebook, doesn't have that kind of cash if you just count the company by itself. So I'm really curious about how that impacts. Like, do they just write it off as the larger corporation, or do they hunker down? And
how do they account for that?
Yeah,
well, let's look at how much money Facebook does have to pay for this. Facebook just reported $8.81 billion in revenue and earnings per share of $1.41. That beat the heck out of estimates of $8.51 billion and $1.31 per share. And monthly active users rose again, although slower than last quarter. Year over year, that rose 3.91% to 1.86 billion. So yeah, I think what Facebook does is write a check and go, fine, we got that out of our system. No harm, no foul.
Yeah. Does Zuckerberg could just pull out his, I don't know, his Venmo account and just
he pays ZeniMax by Venmo at the very end of the trial. So what was that, 500 million? Yeah, I'll just cover that.
You want that in 20s, or would you rather have electronic? Like it just doesn't.
And then the judge well, no, Lucky has to pay 50 million of this out of his Venmo. Like, hold on, Lucky, I'm sending you 50 mil so you can send it to the court.
It hasn't been the best of luck for Lucky Palmer in the last
no, it really hasn't.
Months or so. So
it's a rough few months.
That's yeah, sure. And we haven't heard anything from Lucky Palmer at any of their events. We haven't heard anything at any of the trade shows. I don't know where they put him or what he's doing, but this may be the last thing we hear. This may be it, and he may be moving on to different pastures. Who knows?
Who knows? The upshot is, though, if you're still a little confused, Oculus found guilty, and specifically Lucky found guilty of breaking the NDA. That means, hey, you weren't supposed to tell anybody about this stuff, and you told some people at Facebook or Oculus. They are not guilty of ripping off ZeniMax. They are not guilty of taking trade secrets from ZeniMax and using them to profit.
Yeah. There's probably at some point a book about all this that'll make a whole lot of sense, about id Software getting purchased and the genius that is John Carmack working on VR projects and then leaving the company for Oculus. And
yeah. Well, you could look at it and say, okay, one of the things that this whole thing hinged on was the fact that as a ZeniMax employee, John Carmack glued a sensor to the side of a headset to make Lucky's thing work. And you could say him therefore telling Brendan Uribe and others, like, he glued the sensor to the side, technically could violate the NDA. Right?
Sure.
But it also isn't enough to violate a trade secret. So
right.
There you go.
Well, very interesting stuff to me. Speaking of Facebook, we'll stay right there with them. The Wall Street Journal reports that Facebook is developing a video app for set-top streaming boxes like Roku and Apple TV. Facebook is supposedly asking media companies to develop TV quality shows that Facebook can license for the app. Shows could be up to 10 minutes long. This is both sports and scripted shows, that kind of stuff. According to the sources, Facebook considered developing video streaming apps over several years, but in the summer of 2016, they decided to make video a top priority. We talked about this a bit this morning on TMS, and I still don't know where exactly I fall on this, but part of me just hopes that what little info we have about this just means that they'll start allowing their streaming content to happen over this app, because right now browsers, phone, and AirPlay or something are the only workarounds. And I want to start watching real content from Facebook on my TV.
Facebook on your set-top box, on your Roku, on your Apple TV, on your Fire TV. Fantastic idea. Yeah. There are things that people want to watch on Facebook Live, more now than ever. Facebook needs more eyeballs. They need more ways to monetize this. This is a fine idea until I see that 10-minute. And again, this is sources say, so I don't want to condemn too harshly. But if in fact they're talking about making short form content which is like essentially what Go90 from Verizon does, which if you haven't heard of Go90 should tell you something. Or if you have heard of Go90 and never watched it, I think that tells you even more. I don't know that people are going to go to a Facebook app on a set-top box for that.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff and Verizon's Go90, to be fair, is meant for your mobile device. So maybe this report is wrong. Maybe we're misinterpreting that part of it. I kind of hope it is, because Facebook coming out with some original content, some original live streams, getting more deals to stream live stuff, and going into competition with Twitter on that. I think those are very smart ideas for Facebook to do right now.
And I also think it's possible, as I think Amazon's the best example of this, because Amazon came into the sphere and said, all right, look, we mostly sell stuff. We started with books and now we sell all these things. And now we want to start streaming you content. And not only that, we want to make our own content and stream it to you. And it'll be a part of your thing you pay us every year for Prime shipping. That was a hard sell because it just was weird. It's like, this is the place I go to buy toilet paper and medicine and, whatever.
Well, and let's take a step back. The place I went to buy books became the place I went to buy toilet paper. And now it's the place I go, okay, I'm okay with the toilet paper, but now it wants to show me television shows.
Yeah. I mean, they almost had an advantage of the kind of the long tail there. They could kind of ease everybody into this idea. And I still don't think they're great at marketing how Prime Video works. It still feels a little kludgy, especially on the website. The apps are fine, but on the website, it's a little bit weird. So that's a challenge. Like Facebook, for as big as they are, for as much growth as they have, and as much money as they have, and as many famous live streams like Chewbacca Mom in the back of her car freaking out about her Chewbacca mask and how many hits that got, that proves you've got a platform big enough. But it doesn't mean that you can convince people that there's going to be great scripted 10-minute content on your site. That's really, really hard.
I'll argue with you there. I'll argue that if you create a great scripted content that gets in front of people and everyone's like, dude, you got to watch House of Cards, Stranger Things, Mozart in the Jungle, Bosch, whatever, it'll get people to go and install your thing. And community on Yahoo Now aside, if Facebook does it right, that'll happen. It just doesn't sound like that's the approach they're taking.
Yeah, well, everyone else has a back catalog. Hulu has a back catalog. Amazon and both Netflix started with, existing films and deals with other content creators and then introduced their stuff.
Yeah.
A different direction. And if that's all they've got, what do you stay for? You may come for the 10-minute laugh-a-thon.
You stay for the argument about politics with your uncle.
That's right.
I don't know. Hey, so the European Union has been working on getting rid of roaming charges so that no matter where you go in the EU, if you're from the EU and your home account is the EU, you won't have to pay those roaming charges just because you crossed from Germany into France or whatever. One of the big problems with that was the carriers saying, okay, that's all well and good for you to legislate that, but when my user from Deutsche Telekom roams over to an Italian operator, suddenly that Italian operator is charging me for my customer roaming on their network. And if they're charging me up the wazoo, I can't afford to not charge roaming fees. That's just not fair. So what they did is they have effectively agreed on caps on wholesale data, text messaging, and call charges between the carriers. The caps on text and call are very straightforward. The caps on wholesale data kick into effect at one rate, and then they lower that rate slowly until 2022 to kind of ease the pain of this. But essentially, there'll be a cap that says you can't charge someone from another carrier to roam on your network more than this amount. And that way, it's not a big deal for the carriers to not charge roaming fees to their customers. So the EU still has to vote to approve the deal. But if they do, and they're expected to do so, it would become effective June 15th, 2017.
Which isn't all that far. So I wonder if the day will come where these companies start to conglomerate. We start to see big 2 or 3 competing telcos like we have here in the United States, and they are wireless providers, and they are the providers of the EU.
Well, that's the interesting question. Why hasn't that happened already? And the answer is the countries and the telecoms have said, well, no, we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let Deutsche Telekom just come and take over all of the European carriers. So they put in place blocks. And I think you bring up an even bigger question, which is, okay, if you're setting the rates on the wholesale side And if you've got a lot of impediments to somebody moving into other markets in the EU, how do you create an open marketplace that'll set these rates?
Yeah, like, do we end up seeing another tier of providers that pop up, and they're some sort of multi-country EU-based larger,
And will the individual countries allow that, or will Italy say like, no, we're pretty good buddies with the telecoms here, we're just not going to let anybody else enter this market?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I'm trying to dig around to find a way that this works, it may never work. Like this may
it could happen through acquisition. Deutsche Telekom could come in and buy the Italian telcos.
Sure.
And that may be a direction it goes.
Yeah, we'll see. If they coagulate, the user wins or something.
Acquit.
They must have quit. Fitbit announced that product services for its coin payment cards will stop February 28th, 2017. That is just next month, folks. Or this month. I'm sorry. Today's the 1st. Fitbit acquired Coin in May of 2016, but the actual Coin smart credit card devices were left out of that deal. What does that sound like? Sounds a lot like another acquisition they made. Anyway, payment cards will continue to work until the batteries in the device die, but the mobile app will no longer work after the February 28th deadline, and users will not be able to change or add cards linked to the device. Never had one of these.
I ordered one, and then they took so long to come that I didn't give them my new address. And then when Fitbit bought them, they gave me my money back.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm not the only person who took that journey. I know some other people who got their money back too. My wife actually ordered one and got it. She's never used it. The advance of mobile payments is much more promising, as little used as it is here in the United States. It's much more promising than Coin. Coin feels like it's from another era at this point. It feels like it's from that app-based era where we were all really excited about new phones all the time and Kickstarters. And now we're into a world of automation and machine learning and Internet of Things, and Coin just isn't that interesting anymore.
I totally agree. It's really sad, kind of, because I remember when that hit, everybody was so excited. Like, this is the future of payment. Like, we're taking this thing by the horns, and the banks are too slow, and we're going to be the ones that figure it out. And it felt like a month later, there were 10 new ideas that were better than this, and it just died on the vine, which is unfortunate. But why does Fitbit keep buying stuff that ends up being weird or phased out? Or that's the part of this.
Well, because they want to use the technology in something else, right? So with Pebble, they want to use that interface technology. They want to use those developers, and it's not immediately obvious right now because it takes a while to integrate that stuff into your product line. So it'll be interesting to see if and when that stuff surfaces. With Coin, I assume they want to add some kind of mobile payment system into their wearable devices. That makes perfect sense, like pay with your Fitbit. So I would expect, Scott, for us to very soon see Fitbit Coin.
All right, Fitbit Coin on your Pebble band unit. Yeah.
Apple beat expectations. We mentioned the numbers yesterday, but in case you didn't hear them, revenue of $78.4 billion, up $75.9 billion, profits of $17.9 billion. Apple sold 78.3 million iPhones, up 5% year over year. Got some more numbers in since yesterday because they happened right before the show. iPad sales fell 19% to 13.08 million. CEO Tim Cook in the earnings call said that the Apple Watch set a revenue record, but they don't report Apple Watch sales or revenue independently. They lump them into an other category, which includes a bunch of other things. That category fell from 4.35 billion to 4.023 billion. Apple's services, which include iCloud and Apple Pay, jumped 18% to 7.17 billion. And on the earnings call, Apple said it plans to double that amount in 4 years. A lot of people speculate that means they might acquire some kind of service. A lot of people are suspecting some kind of television service, media service, if they're expecting to really double that amount in 4 years. A couple other notes here that are interesting. Sales in Greater China fell 12%. That's attributable in part to the weak Chinese currency, though it is interesting that mainland China sales were flat, meaning much of the fall in China sales came through the Hong Kong market. And Apple benefited overall from an extra week in the quarter due to the way the calendar fell. It would have been ending their quarter in a weird way if they would have left it at the normal 13 weeks. So they added 14 weeks, but that last week is the post-holiday week. So who says how much that really added, but it did add something. So a lot of people are making a lot of arguments about how to interpret these numbers, given the fact that the quarter is a weird size.
Yeah. Also, all I heard in 2016, I swear, was Apple iPhone sales are down. They're a record low. They haven't been lower. They're losing market share. And then I find out at the end of this that they're up 5% year over year. Should we just always wait for earnings calls and forget all the speculation during the year?
Yes, you should. That said, up 5% year over year in a quarter that had an extra week could almost be flat. I mean, it's a what if game, right? Because you're talking about differently sized quarters and comparing them, and it's going to shake out because they're going to have to put that week back at some point, and one quarter is going to be a little smaller. So you're not going to be forever without that comparison, but it does cloud the issue a little. That said, it wasn't horrible sales. It wasn't like the iPhone fell flat, which a lot of people were saying.
Yeah. Also, I mean, they benefited a little bit from the Samsung messes.
What do you mean? What do you make of this? That we're going to double the amount of money from our services. Apple for years was like, we make hardware, we make our money on hardware. Services are there to sell hardware. Now they're making money on services, and they're paying lip service to wanting to increase that money. I don't think they increase that money out of iCloud necessarily. Yeah. It would be very optimistic to see Apple Pay finally catch fire and provide that. So it has to be some new service they're contemplating.
Yeah, that's what I think. I mean, it's one thing to say we're going to hunker down and make these two things really, really succeed, and Apple Music's part of that, and have all these initiatives. But I have a feeling there's either something new to launch, and it very well could be. No one's talking much about it, but it could be finally a real TV service like they've been rumoring for years and years and years, or maybe it's something totally different. But
yeah, what if the Apple Car is a car hailing service?
Ooh. What if I just pay a monthly fee and that thing just picks me up and takes me wherever I want to go? How about that?
Right. I mean, now we're just speculating wildly, but
yeah, now we're getting excited. And yeah, but also if that's your speculation, I could see things quadrupling in that amount of time, if that's indeed what they're working on and it's a good service.
I think that's what caught everyone's attention, is for them to double this, it has to be something kind of wild and unexpected, I would think.
Yep. Well, we'll see. Waymo, speaking of increases, has increased the number of miles in its autonomous car driven in California in 2016 while decreasing the number of disengagements. A disengagement, for those who don't know, and I didn't either before reading this, is when a human has to take control of the car for any reason, from events on the road to pauses to adjust software or just squash a bug in the code. Disengagements were 0.8 per 1,000 miles in 2015 and fell to 0.2% or per 1,000 miles in 2016. Most of the driving was in the more challenging city and suburban areas as well. The raw numbers are 124 total disengagements in 2016, over 635,868 miles.
So yeah, I think when you see this headline, you think, oh, that's when it ran into a problem and the driver had to take over. Well, yes, it is that. But it's also the driver's like, I noticed a little interface bug. Let me stop down and see what I could do to squash that or log that. So having only 124 of those kinds of incidents, of all of those kinds of incidents, is pretty good. Yeah. It's still 124 more. You want this disengagements number down really low.
Well, at some point, maybe they'll parse this data in a way that says, these are the ones that were specifically to squash bugs in the code, or these are the ones that were specifically to adjust something, not necessarily, driver needs to take over, something's gone wrong. It'd be nice to separate those because I'd like to know what those numbers are. But
I want 0 of all of those. And something gone wrong. I would like to know the number of times that is. We have the number of accidents, and then we have this larger number. It'd be cool to see the number in between.
I totally agree. I guess all I'm saying is I feel like when I drive to Vegas, it takes me about 6 hours. I stop about 124 times.
Yeah, but I don't think the driver had to go take a pee counts as a disengagement.
I know. And that's true. But I guess my point is I still see these as really positive numbers. That's a lot of miles for under 200.
Well, it's a big reduction. I think that's the most encouraging thing is like, wow, they went from 0.8 to 0.2. That's huge. Are they going to start hitting a wall soon? Was that like, we've squashed all the really obvious bugs? Is it going to get harder and harder to make progress from here on out?
Yep.
Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in less than 10 minutes, subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. All right, so a couple things here. First of all, Boston Dynamics is tired of scaring you with robots that walk like people. So they've created a robot that has Segway-like wheels and can just roll right over you. The robot is called Handle. It can balance its own weight according to speed, movement, and terrain. Your only hope is to run up a hillside, though, because unlike Big Dog, this one doesn't seem to be able to do much more than just flat spaces. It can do grass. They show it running on grass, but it does seem like it needs flat spaces. Boston Dynamics on the one end of the world is making like crazy cool robot concepts that work in reality, but we're not really seeing them used in our daily life. On the other hand, it turns out the Robotic Industries Association reported Tuesday that robot orders are skyrocketing. American businesses, North American businesses, Mexico, Canada, and the U.S., ordered 34,606 robots in 2016. That's up 10% over 2015. Sales rose from 1.8 billion to a new high of 1.9 billion. U.S. led the way with 31,000 orders. Mexico had 4,700 orders, and Canada, a little robot tepid there with 2,700 orders. That pales in comparison to the rest of the world, though. The International Federation of Robotics hasn't put out their 2016 numbers yet, but last year, and so these numbers are probably going to rise too, China ordered 69,000 robots, Japan ordered 35,000 robots, and South Korea ordered 38,000 robots. And if you're wondering where these robots are going, short answer, Scott, is automotive. 20,000 of the robots ordered last year in North America went into the automotive sector. That's up 25%. Another place they're going is food and consumer goods. That's up 32%. There's also ones for electronics, plastics, life sciences. And essentially, mostly in automotive, you probably have an image in your head of a robot, putting in a rivet, putting on a door, and more sophisticated versions of that is what a lot of these do. They place and pick up objects on an assembly line. There's also packing. A lot of these robots are packing things up for sale. You've actually seen that in Amazon a little bit. They cut or forge materials. That's another automotive assembly line, cutting pieces, forging metals together. But vision and motion control are big areas of interest in development. BCC Research says the global market for machine vision system components should reach $19 billion in 2016 and $30.8 billion by 2021. This is because people want the robots to be able to just move on their own without having to program. Old robots, you'd have to lock it in and say, okay, you're going to go from this area, and then you're going to follow this path to get over there and do that. And if conditions changed, you had to readjust the program. It could also cause a safety problem because the robot just did its thing. It didn't know you were there. Machine vision says, go over there. You can see your way over there. And if somebody gets in your way, don't run them over.
Mm-hmm. Well, they end up being less. They're almost like century robots when it comes to car manufacturing, for example. They're very much planted in a place, and they do the work that they do, and they don't go anywhere. And the idea that you could have a more mobile robotic solution to any number of logistical problems on an assembly line or whatever. Even just if it's, this one's gone down, we need one in its place. If they could just like literally swap places, those kinds of things are huge. And every time I see something new happening with motion control, whether it be VR or even our phones or optical detection that can recognize faces or objects or, drones that can see that there's something in its way and avoid those things. I always think, oh man, these are huge steps. Like we're using them for trivial things right now, relatively speaking, but they're enormous steps into putting machines in places where right now we only trust people to do it. And that could be surgeries, that could be other doctor stuff. It could be all sorts of very intricate, hard to do current human endeavors that a machine would be faster, more efficient, and more accurate with once we get to that point. And so much of that is motion control and pressure control and sensory stuff that has to do with movement and ocular recognition and that sort of thing. So to me, this is why I think all of this stuff you've just mentioned and all that we've talked about so far is probably why I'm seeing so many new articles pop up on the internet that are basically scare articles about, oh no, our robots taking our jobs again. And whenever this happens, I have to think about, all right, well, what's changed since the last time we freaked out about this? And what you've mentioned, some of those things are the differences. Like there's a a precision to what we're doing now with robots that used to be a lot more just sort of bzz, 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 over and over, and now it's a lot more intricate and responsive.
Well, one example is inspection. So with machine vision, and especially with 3D machine vision, this applies particularly in pharmaceuticals and in food industry. You're having robots that can look for defects because they can see and scan in 3D and decide, with a little bit of machine learning, whether the thing they're looking at meets the standard it's supposed to.
Right. I'm always surprised that we still have any of the markets in the world, any of the stock markets that exist in the world, and let's just say the New York Stock Exchange, just as a single example, why that still involves a bunch of people running around.
Well, and it involves less people than it used to. In fact, that is going away.
That's true. We're definitely getting there. But in theory, it's a server farm and nobody's there except some IT guys. Like, that's in theory what we could be doing. And we don't, and I don't know why. There's still a salesmanship aspect to it. There's some other stuff, surely, that's going on. But the rate that it can process things, it can in real time buy and sell and do all the things it does. Like, part of this is just
that's just data processing. That's not even robots.
Right. That's true. We're just talking about computers in that case. So I guess maybe that brings me to the whole point I'm trying to make is we tend to get more automated as time goes on. We tend to have machines start to do more of what we used to have to do, and new, more interesting, sometimes diverse jobs rise from that. So you may lose some jobs on the assembly line, but you may gain them in designing for these robots, for software engineering, for various other things. So I'm not so worried about that. You always go back to the Lotus 1-2-3 story and how the entire accounting industry thought that meant the death of their business. And what it did is it created thousands and thousands upon thousands of more jobs, because suddenly there was a million more things to do in and around how much more data you can now work with because of spreadsheets, because of electronic spreadsheets. So I'm always very optimistic about that sort of thing. But
yeah,
we're so slow sometimes to accept these things. It's so slow to like implement it. Like, I want my heart surgery when I'm 80. I want it to be a robot that's just real good at it. Not a person.
Does it? Yeah, that knows exactly what it's doing and won't make a mistake.
Yeah.
It seems reasonable to me.
Yeah.
I did a column a couple of weeks ago on the Patreon. If you're at the $5 a month level, you get these weekly exclusive columns, and it was just about that sort of thing, about how to tell if it's a problem or not. Generally, on the long term, technology improvements don't eliminate our ability to work, right? They have not yet caused us to, all starve because we had technology improvements. Instead, they generally improve life. They make it so that people like you and me can afford all kinds of new clothes instead of having to pay a tailor to make all of our clothes because they're machine made. They allow us to have a washing machine instead of spending half our day lugging water up from the creek to do our washing, because we can also have indoor plumbing. Like, in the long term, it works well. The short-term disruption is where it becomes an issue. And that's where the guy who's like, yeah, you say it works well, but I used to have a really stable job minding the robot to make sure that it was on its programmed track. And now that you have this machine vision, I'm out of a job because they don't need me to reprogram it. They only need one reprogrammer now instead of three. And so what about me? What about the guy who was working on the factory line in a situation that is now automated? And that is where the disruption happens. And that's where you have to pay attention. You have to hope that there has been a good enough educational system that not only are the people displaced by this able to find other jobs that are profitable and that they enjoy, but that there are opportunities for them to retrain in that situation. Because what the robots do is not take away jobs. The robots allow companies to work more efficiently. A smart company will take that money and come up with new jobs that allow it to create more profits and more value, right? And that's the harsh capitalistic term for it. But they, like you said, when Lotus 1-2-3 came around, companies didn't just get rid of their accounting departments, right? They said, oh, now that these guys don't have to be spending all their time on the drudge work, we can have them do these other things that will help us become an even better company. And the trick is to find, like, okay, now that we've got robots on the factory floor that can kind of take care of themselves, what can we do with those people who had those talents that were minding those robots that we couldn't do before, that was just too expensive before, and make our products better, make our companies better.
Sure. And there's the whole other issue and conversation about what does it mean for people personally? What will happen in the home automation and Internet of Things and those sorts of things are happening now. And to some degree, there's some robotics happening there. Really, it's just devices talking to each other, but it's a path to those sorts of things. But what will happen one day? Will it be more than just a Roomba? Will I have a sort of bipedal robot that does everything I need it to do when I'm not around?
Is it a Boston Dynamics Segway security guard?
Yeah. I mean, it is.
And will it ever turn on me?
That's science. That stuff is science fiction-y. It still is in so many ways, but we're finally getting there. And that's when I think all sorts of new innovation comes and new jobs come and new opportunities and new use cases. I hate to keep poking at the Lotus 1-2-3, but that's what it did. It was thought to kill everything. And what it did instead was inspire a bunch of new ideas around it so that you could make more of your business, make more of your employees,
And what we have to not forget is that it did eliminate a few people's jobs.
Of course.
Right? And so we need to focus on those and help those people out. Figure out how to bring those people along to a new way of making a living. Don't leave those folks behind. And that's where this kind of automation is concerning. Is like, okay, we're gonna have a bunch of people that this will affect, and how do we help those people out?
Yep, totally agree.
Well, thanks, everybody. Let us know your thoughts. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. Thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit, too. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. One last side note just occurred to me as I was wrapping up. If you look at a lot of Internet of Things and sensors and devices and you wonder like, okay, fine, I can unlock my door with a key. I don't really need an August lock. Remember that these industry level situations are part of that too. When that August lock can unlock something for the robot so that someone doesn't have to go and unlock it and it's secure, it introduces all kinds of, if there's sensors, cameras, all that sort of thing. All right, let's get to our messages of the day. Hey, would you mind alternating these with me?
Yeah, no problem.
I'll start with the first one.
Okay.
Yaru in Malaysia wrote, some time ago, I made the switch to IPv6 in relation to our talk yesterday, and I noticed something strange on my VPN. It was starting to cause leaks that revealed my real IP address. I tried changing a few settings and noticed that changing it back to IPv4 fixed the issue. While I'm not the most technical person in the world, I'm not clueless and do consider myself to have more knowledge than the average person in this regard. I've actually learned how to plug DNS leaks as I learned how to use VPNs, and whatever measures I'm using simply isn't working for IPv6, so back to IPv4 it is. And it's not immediately obvious what might be going on there, but maybe it is to one of you. So if somebody's like, oh, I know what that is. When you use IPv6, you have to have a VPN that supports IPv6 or else it'll leak. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's something else. Send us an email, feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Help a Yaru in Malaysia out.
Yeah, no kidding. Nobody wants their IP leaking. Alan wrote in, says, hi, Tom. I really like the episode about IPv6, to stick with the topic here. Ethan was an entertaining and informative guest, and not just on networking, but on other tech topics too. You should definitely invite him back more often. And you told me before the show, he is good to go for any time we need some expertise on that level. So that's awesome. The show even inspired me to find the switch in my router to enable IPv6. Unfortunately, my cable modem only does IPv4 or IPv6, not both. So I think I'm stuck with 4 for the time being. Another great episode with a great first-time guest. Yeah, that's a bummer.
Well, you should be able to switch your modem to IPv6 and still do some NAT on the other end with the router. But that, yeah, it is something where you do have to get everything talking the same language. So I get that.
Yeah.
Franz from wet and hot Pretoria, South Africa, said on Monday, 31st January, the team discussed Uber as a service rather than as an employer, as it might pertain to self-driving cars down the road. And I was wondering, if I could be one of the people getting out of my little self-driving car at the office, then lovingly stroking its roof, saying, who's a good car? Who's a good car then? Go make daddy some rent money. And off goes my little self-driving car to Uber all day long, making me mega rich in the process. As I'm writing this, I'm getting a mental image of a guy wearing a faux fur coat, shiny gold medallions around his neck, standing at a street corner in a shadier part of town, surrounded by half a dozen slightly dirty, slightly beat up little Uber self-driving cars, being berated for not working hard enough. Ina. Ouch. Thanks for the show, Franz, proud patron. Thank you, Franz. I hope it doesn't end up like that, but I do like your point, which is if you were to purchase an autonomous car and Uber had a platform that others could use, you could potentially plug into that platform.
Yeah, why not? We also got an email from Jason Quiz. Is that really his name? Because that's awesome, Jason.
Yes. I mean, who are we to doubt that that's his name?
I'm not going to doubt it. In fact, I'm going to adopt it. I think it's amazing. It says, Tom, a couple of days ago, you talked about Dropbox's new Smart Sync feature. There was also mentioned the service would figure out which items you use the most and keep a local offline copy for easy access and then store less frequently used items in the cloud. I, for one, really like this idea. After using the beta, it seems that there is no smart algorithm figuring out what you use. Unfortunately, you have to manually tell files and folders which state you want them to be in, either local or online only. The online only files show up as reference files and folders on your computer. When you double click on a file, it begins downloading a local copy, which will stay local until you manually change it back to online only. The online only reference file makes it much easier to browse and find seldom used files. So I would recommend people who have access to the beta turn on Smart Sync. I love the show and appreciate all the hard work you and the team put into it every day. Thanks, Jason. So I've got a real big question about this.
Hold on. First of all, I want to thank Jason for gently correcting. I appreciate that very much. I was just wrong. I try very hard not to do this, but sometimes wishful thinking causes me to say something that Dropbox didn't say. And I just kind of jumped to the conclusion that it worked that way. So I apologize for that.
Yeah, no, not only that, but I also just, as a guy who has I have a ton of PSD files. Let's just say that. I have millions of them. And they're all different pieces of artwork I've created over the years. And I am always trying to determine whether I should store these on the cloud, on the drive, both places. What's my secondary backup? Like all these kinds of things. I would love it if it was smart enough, or if I could have other rule sets that said, hey, anything I've created in this last amount of time, make those local. And then when they're not, put them up to the cloud, because I'm probably not going to touch them for a while. Like, I think they could go a long way to improve this, but I think it's a really cool thing.
Yeah. Do what I said you were doing already, Dropbox, please.
Yeah.
And I'll try not to make that mistake again. Hey, thanks, Scott Johnson. What you got going on to tell folks about?
Well, there's always something. I'm about to pull the switch on a website revamp for frogpants.com. You should be able to go, whether it's the old one or the new one, and not have any interrupted service, but just in case you see a 404 or something during the transfer, you'll know why. But frogpants.com's got all the links to all the shows that I do and host, as well as shows by others who do stuff on the network, including Daily Tech News Show. And there's always something cool going on. So go check it out, frogpants.com. And, of course, follow me on Twitter at Scott Johnson.
Thanks to all the bosses. It's Bosses Day, February 1st. This is the day when we get paid by Patreon. So thank you to everybody who supports the show. If you're the person out there who's been thinking, I've been thinking about supporting the show, but then by the time I get home and I put my phone away and I'm not thinking about it anymore, I always forget. Try not to forget. Patreon.com/DTNS. Today, I sent out business cards to people. They can print out and show that they are supporters of the show. You get that weekly exclusive email with columns and a wrap up of the news every week at a certain level. And we just welcomed a bunch of new folks into our analyst Slack. And there's all kinds of cool conversations going on in there all the time. I'm in there. A bunch of the other contributors are in there. So patreon.com/DTNS. There's no time like the present. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Shannon Morse as our guest. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Boom.
Nice.
Good show. What should we call it?
I don't know. Let's go to Showbot and see what people like.
What do the people like?
Facebox.
Facebox.
What does that mean? Where's that from?
The Facebook TV app.
Oh, because it's a set-top box. Got it.
Rome EU if you want to. If you want to.
B-52 illusion.
Diddly. A little diddly. What else we got? We got Fit Bitcoin. Way less bugs. Been there, done that. Robot the t-shirt. Do as I say, robot as I do.
Yeah.
Connect robots. La 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 la. I'm not sure that one. Am I missing that one?
No, it's weird. I don't get the
I
robot.
think it's a song that I'm not catching.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Would you switch for $30? NDAs are not lucky.
Yeah.
Facebook gets unlucky decision, but they're just fine.
I like face top box.
FaceTop box works better than Facebox.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dark Redeemer.
Ooh, a robot button issue.
Wait, where do you see that?
It's down farther.
Oh, robot button issue.
Just iRobot needed now. That's working hard. I appreciate that. Robot legs.
People really like Waymo.
Just iRobot needed now. Just iRobot. Oh, just iRobot needed now.
Oculus not so lucky, spelled lucky with an E.
With a E, yeah.
Oh, zing.
I want my face TV. MTV Illusion. Are you feeling lucky, VR punk? Rome if EU want to. I like FaceTop box.
I like FaceTop box a lot.
But I'm trying to look for any robot-y ones. Robot legs. Robots like to roll like a playa. I'm waiting for robot doctors. When they can automate healthcare, where you can just go in and get scanned stuff.
Yeah, that's what I want.
That's one of the things. I mean, the health industry is a big area where robot sales are growing, and a lot of it has to do with scanning and identification and stuff like that.
Yeah, what do they call it?
I want just like
diagnosis.
I want a flash mole check. I just want to walk in, have it go, poof, and walk out, and it found every mole that was bad or good.
Have you ever had that before?
Approved.
I had a doctor do that. Give me a full body mole check.
Yeah,
very awkward, especially below the belt.
Sure, she was a doctor.
It's a
It was a dude.
Yeah,
it was a 78-year-old doctor.
It was at the tiki bar. She said she was a doctor.
Actually, my last dermatologist was pretty hot, but she kept talking about her trip to Miami. Kind of lost interest. I want my face TV, Rome if you want to, FaceTop box, Wheeless Bugs. I want the robot from Star Wars, the one that puts you in the back to tank.
Oh yeah, what is that? What is the name of that bot? The Medbot, right? The Medbot?
Oh, the one from Rocky?
No, from Star Wars.
Why am I thinking of the one from Rocky? There's
a medical
robot.
droid.
You remember
the droid in Rocky?
Yeah, Rocky 5 had a robot at the house, and it would like feed you and help you and cure you and.
Oh.
2-1B circle. 2-1B surgical droid.
Oh,
2-1B surgical droid. Okay.
I never understood why the droid needed a hose up to its face. Like is it
cool design? That's
so it can filter the Bacta.
Or was it actually a person who died and then they had to keep it?
He was
kind of
such
like
a good surgeon. We can't let him go.
Well, can you imagine? They would just basically stick your head on a robot body. All right, Dr. Singh, you're going to keep continuing your practice.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind a back to tank. That would be awesome. You just float in there for a couple of weeks and then you're all better.
It sounds really relaxing.
I know, right? The little Bacta thingies, whatever, cure you or fix you up. I don't even know what a Bacta is. Sounds like
FaceTop box and Rome if you want to are the top two right now, and I'm still levelating. So there's time to vote if you're watching live or listening live.
cylindrical tank, which can be submerged for extensive period of time. Back tanks. A fluid could accelerate healing and treat major injuries. If we could treat major injuries, why don't you just stick Luke's arm in it and then grow a new hand?
Well, that's different. That's not just an injury. That's a severed.
That's an injury in my book.
Amputation. Like, what about it? Can't bring people back from the dead either.
Have they tried, or do they come back something more than human, or something less than human, but more
like
than
Darth
dead?
Vader. They didn't just stick Anakin Skywalker in a Bacta tank and then out popped Darth Vader.
Should have been awesome. Bactine. Could be. Futurama. Jotman said, or Futurama style head in a jar with a robot body.
Oh, like Nixon bot.
Yeah. I'm Nixon. I've come back.
I think that's who I'll vote for in the next election. Nixon bot. They're taking our jorbs.
Robots, yes. It's gonna be worse is when you need to repair a robot and you send it off to another plant with robots.
Why is that worse?
It's gonna be worse.
Why is that
worse? Because then
that's
they'll
better. Then you know it's going to get repaired right, and it costs less.
That's rather speciesist. Oh, it's going to be repaired right.
It's not speciesist. It's machinist. Machinist?
Wait a minute, a machinist? I know a couple of those. That's how it starts, Tom, Skynet. They say, well, we don't need these flesh things.
Exactly. But by then, we're all in surgical droids' bodies, so it's fine.
Instead of RoboCop, it'll be.
All right. Should we go Rome if you want to, or FaceTop box?
I like FaceTop box, but that's just because I think it sounds better. The other one was also less of a story. That's just me.
All right. Now you make a compelling case.
FaceTop box.
FaceTop box it is. FaceTop box it is now.
FaceTop box.
Boop, 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 boop. So, did you stop using Hangouts? I noticed you Skyped me today.
Oh, I did because I was an idiot and forgot what we were doing.
Oh, that was just okay.
That was just me being dumb.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I meant to send you the link before, and then once I pulled you up on Skype and went, well, I may as well just.
Yep.
So yes, we're still using those.
Okay, I was just curious.
Goofed.
I feel like it's colder down here, but that could just be the weather, although the weather isn't as cold.
I'll bet it's your tile.
Yeah.
No, it's the fact that you're sunk into the earth a little bit.
No, but it's always been the same distance down into the earth. That hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is tile.
It's warmer in my office, or it's warmer in the living room where I have carpet than the door just into here in my office where it's much cooler and I have tile in here.
I know it was this after around noon. It was hotter outside than in the living room. The living room was cold. It was like 65.
And that's normal. That's normal for this house. That happens here too. But it was like even colder down here than it usually is.
Perhaps there's something else down there, Tom.
Perhaps. That's the other thing I'm wondering about. Did they unleash when they did all that work?
Did they disturb something?
In the digging. They had to dig. Did they unleash some ancient terror?
Maybe. Or maybe they just uncovered some caskets. No, you know how like in Poltergeist, you just remove the headstones. You just remove the headstones.
My next door neighbor was asking me, because they put gravel in the backyard too, because it was just mud back there. She's like, oh, how do you like all that gravel? She seemed to not like it, but it's fine by me. Maybe they unleashed a kraken. Big Jim, maybe.
No, kraken is sea-based.
Well, we're very close to the ocean here.
It's true.
Is the kraken always sea-based?
Yeah.
Okay.
There are no land kraken?
Maybe we call a plumber.
You clever land kraken. Maybe there was so much rain that a kraken found its way here. And maybe I misunderstood when they say we're fixing a crack in the foundation. They were saying we're fixing the kraken by the foundation.
Maybe that's just maybe in the language of the native peoples, it just means supersized silverfish. Oh, those things creep me out.
Supersized swordfish?
No, silverfish.
Oh.
You ever seen the silverfish?
Yeah. Those
things are gross looking.
Yeah, I don't like them.
And they usually come out when it's wet. Ugh, nasty.
Just piss me off. I like fish.
That's why I won't go to Florida. Too many of those icky crawly things.
Big damn fish.
That's why you won't go to Florida.
Good fish. I don't trust them.
But it's not a fish. A silverfish. It's like it's an arthropod.
Oh, no.
Like
Silverfish, you need to capture and then extract the silver out of them. You'll get rich.
Wait, are you telling me that a seahorse isn't a horse?
Wait, what?
Seahorse is actually probably the most progressive animal in the sea kingdom.
I'm on a seahorse diet.
I'm a vegan horse.
A seahorse and I eat it. Because I'm so hungry I could eat a horse.
It's true, actually, right now.
Yeah, but why wasn't it just like I'm so hungry I could eat a cow? I mean,
Kruger says silverfish are insects. Are they insects or arthropods?
well, they have more than 6 legs, don't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Seahorse isn't a horse, of course. Although
no one could
Aquaman
talk to a
always
seahorse, of course.
You know, those old 60s Aquaman cartoons used to fool me because I thought seahorses were big.
Yeah, because he rides a big giant seahorse.
He rides them. It's like, that's pretty cool.
I remember seeing seahorses in an aquarium for the first time as a child and being very disappointed.
So, don't they get bigger?
Yeah, where's the big one that Aquaman rides?
And someone showed me, oh, that's a big fish. And it's like,
and then I also got my first experience of someone making fun of me for talking about Aquaman.
Really?
No, I'm just making that part up.
Lame. I was going to be mad. Nothing wrong with Aquaman.
Someone trolled me about Aquaman.
Come on.
See, look, Stoic Squirrel's doing it in the chat room right now.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, really, his only power is to get other things to fight for him.
That's a pretty good. It's the powers of delegation. I think we all could learn something from that.
Yeah, you just need to be a leader.
Yeah.
Oh, my loyal minions, fling yourselves at my enemy. What was Zach Brannigan? It's like, well, I know these from Futurama. He said, well, my strategy was that I know all the robots have a kill limit, so I just sent waves and waves of my own men until their limit was reached.
I love Zach Brannigan. I've made it with a woman. Kiff and form the men. He's the best. He's the best worst.
Oh,
well,
Zap.
you know what's funny is I used to think it was Phil Hartman, but then I realized he passed away before that.
No, it was supposed to be. It was
got a very Phil Hartman like.
Yeah.
There's Groening tells the story that they had hired Hartman and he died right before they did it, so they didn't use him.
It's kind of insane how Hartman's style has outlived him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
because it was just so good.
Well, and it's funny is people remember Troy McClure before they remember the man he was based on, right? Mm. Is it Troy McClane or no?
John McCain?
No, the actor that Troy McClure's that character is based on.
I guess Troy McClure's not based on John McCain in any possible way.
No. Doug McClure.
Oh,
because he was in everything. He was just like literally in everything. And then Troy Donahue. Both B actors who just. I remember Doug McClure.
The only thing I know about Troy Donahue is he's referenced in one of the songs in Grease.
Really?
Yeah. The "Look at Me, I'm Sandra Dee" song.
Oh. I didn't know it had anything to do with him.
They mentioned Elvis, and they mentioned a bunch of 50s stars in that.
Hi, I'm Troy McClure. You might remember me from such movies as... It's one of the best characters. One of the best.
The Simpsons created many of the best characters.
But like the thing is, like, there's a crop of new ones, or not the first ones no one remembers. Like, who was the psychologist? And what was it? There's like a couple of more that they just didn't decide to stop using.
I'm tempted to subject you to me singing that song from Grease, and I'm withholding, and I'm resisting that temptation. So I think you'll thank me. for resisting that.
I wonder if they'll be I wonder if that will be like one of the hallowed classics in 100 years, where everyone needs to study.
Good.
Which will?
Greece.
Oh, I think it's verging on classic status these days.
Dr. Marvin Moreau, thank you.
You know how like March 1st is St. David's Day, and there's nothing special about February 1st, right? Tomorrow's Groundhog Day.
Oh man, I have to relive it?
Yeah. I have to keep doing it tomorrow over and over and over again.
What song?
Isn't it always February 2nd?
What's the song in the beginning of that movie? When the radio turns on.
Oh, I don't remember.
It's a beautiful day out there, Pennsylvania, something, and then the song goes.
No, you're thinking of the Cher and Sonny and Cher song.
Oh, it's not like Babe, or maybe it is.
Yeah, it is. I Got You, Babe.
Okay.
But it's the beginning of the song where it's like that. Oh, the clarinet.
Yeah.
I got you, babe. It's funny how that movie, Groundhog Day, people were saying it feels like Groundhog Day, and it's because of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Now they do, yeah. Before the movie came out, they didn't say that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but it's kind of odd because I'm of the age where I saw it in the theater, and it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting, but it's now a cultural cue. Like when someone says Xerox machine.
It's actually interesting to think about how many pieces of our speech are how old. Mm-hmm. Like there's some things we say that we don't really understand why we say them, and they're cultural references from the 1800s, right? They've just persisted and lost their connection to the original reference. Then there's things that are new, like you're talking about, like, oh, it's like Groundhog Day, that are fairly recent, in the grand scheme of things.
I'm trying to think of something from the 1800s we still say. Okay.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Like that's slang from the late 1800s. That's now that's now a word that is across many languages. Like some people who don't know much English, if any at all, know okay. And it was just a joke by some I think it was Harvard students.
And what's interesting is it's
you know that.
The folk singer Pete Seeger sang that okay was of Choctaw Indian origin.
Yeah, there's some alternative theories.
List of proposed etymologies.
Yeah. Where are you getting that from, though?
From Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But this is just a list.
Pete Seeger said that.
Yeah, Pete Seeger said that in his song. Okay.
The most accepted version is that it and nobody really knows, but the most accepted version is that it arose from Ol Correct, a sort of mocking of a particular lower education level dialect, and spelled Ollkorr. But it was around that it was around the 1800s when it came into popular being.
So this is a tech related thing, but only barely. But I heard that the press secretary's thing today was that he took a Skype call.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's pretty cool. They've reserved 2 seats in the press room for remote users and they're calling them the Skype seats, so that they can take questions from people that aren't present.
And who are they? Are they people like the one guy I saw was some podcast or something?
Yeah, how they're selecting them is a whole different thing, but I love the idea.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know that that's been done before.
No, I don't think so. And that way you don't need to get security clearance to come in. You just Skype in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, start of Black History Month, says BioCow, February.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yep. Quick, who invented the peanut? Or not the peanut butter?
The French.
Nope.
George Washington Carver.
Thank you very much. Ding, 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 ding.
But he didn't. That's actually that's a.
I thought that was true.
Wonderful.
Is it?
He invented a number of things, but peanut butter wasn't one of them.
Oh, I thought that was one he did.
The use of peanuts, but it's Marcus Gilmore Edson of Montreal, Quebec, was the first to patent peanut butter in 1884.
Huh.
Did Carver get the first patent in the United States? And that guy got the patent in Canada? That could cause the confusion.
Yeah.
Well, George Washington Carver did a lot of work with peanuts.
With peanuts, yeah. And he might have been the first to patent peanut butter in the United States.
Let me see.
What I'm wondering. He also did a lot with sweet potatoes.
Carver is often mistakenly credited with the invention of peanut butter. By the time Carver published How to Grow the Peanut and 105 Ways of Preparing for Human Consumption in 1916, many methods of preparing peanut butter had been developed or patented by various...
Aztecs invented peanut butter. All right, fine.
They also invented not hot cocoa, but chocolate beverages, which probably tasted nothing like Swiss Miss. They didn't have marshmallows to their loss. Sweet potatoes. But an African American is, I think, is responsible for the yellow light on the traffic signal.
Really?
Yeah. Up until then, until then it was just red or green, and so it sounds okay until the red suddenly pops up and you're coasting along at 30 miles an hour. You had to slam on the brakes. It's like, hey, maybe we should give people a warning. He thought, and he did.
Yeah.
All right, there you go, folks. Thank you. Have a lovely evening. We will talk to you tomorrow with Shannon Morse.
Yeah.